get them, but my friends and I were down there, and so I was like, oh, you know what, we could go fetch the golf balls for them. So we had this little venture that I came up with, which was we'll go get the golf balls, clean them off, and sell them back with lemonade, right, on the golf course. So I remember one Saturday, it was like our profitable Saturday was like, we made $20 that day, right? So I was like, kid rich, you know. So, you know, that was probably that was my first foray. And then after that, it was like pet sitting businesses, babysitting. My parents were like, you got to shut that pet sitting one down. I'd have like little hounds in the house that would want to come sleep on my parents' bed. So they made me shut that one down. But you know, that was kind of my inception into it. I like the creativity of it. I wove back and forth, you know, between corporate America and, you know, trying to have like a business on the side until in 2014, I started running T-Secure full time. And so it was really helpful to have, one of the companies that I was working for as a W-2 actually became my first client. And so that was how I was able to segue into entrepreneurship and still sustain myself, pay the bills that I have, and continue to grow from there.
That's awesome. How about you, Chris? I know you have aromatherapy in your background, but you're really niche. You care about the hands and the feet. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So I have to be honest, if you would have asked my 18-year-old self, you know, one day you'll have a foot care business, I would have been like, no way. I got in the industry because when I was pregnant with my first baby, I suffered from severe swelling of my feet, and they were very, I had a lot of pain. So I decided that I wanted to soak my feet. And so, okay, foot care is not new, right? I could go to any Walmart and find it. But what I had a challenge with was finding foot care that didn't have peppermint or tea tree, which both made me super sick at the time. And so I was like, I'll just make my own foot care. And I survived my pregnancy by soaking my feet in my own blends and also massage. So the thing that makes Naturally London so unique is that we don't use peppermint or tea tree in any of our formulations, just because that's where it originated from me. I mean, it's okay for me now, but it's like, I'd rather not smell like a, you know, medicinal or like a medicine cabinet. So yeah, I totally would never in 1,000 years think I would be in foot care, and now just expand it to hand care. But it truly, when your feet feel good, it makes your whole body feel good. And I am like living proof of that. So yeah, that's what happened.
That is the truth too. And I think with some like Eastern medicine, they say that your feet is connected to other parts of your body. So you can actually see the entire, and Lisa probably knows all about this because she's into Eastern medicine. Yeah, so you're right. Taking care of your feet is so important. Latoya or Lala, helping women bring their babies into the world. I mean, that is not only work of the spirit, but it's something that is so important, especially in the Black community, is when we hear about the fact that regardless of how educated you are, regardless of how much money you make, if you're a Black woman having a baby in the US, you have a higher likelihood than any other group to die. So I feel like the work that you're doing is incredible. So tell us a little bit about that journey, and from going from, you know, being a Howard student to graduating, working in various organizations, to now running essentially a business, a healthcare business that's advocating for people who really need help.
Thank you. So when I came to DC in 2003, I had the intentions of graduating with a pre-med degree from Howard University. So I obtained a pre-med degree, but I failed organic chemistry my last semester there. And I was just really discouraged. And it just kind of, I mean, I eventually passed it in order to graduate, but I was really discouraged and essentially like took myself out of the equation for being able to serve people. So I kind of went a more plant science route. And ultimately, I mean, eventually looked working with people and pollution. So looking at how different chemicals impact our health disparities and even impact pregnant women. And eventually I went to a documentary screening of a film called Death by Delivery. It was sponsored by Planned Parenthood, NYU, and Mama Toto Village. And it really and that's where I learned about the health disparities, particularly the Black maternal mortality rate for women in the US. And I was really moved, and it became sort of like a spiritual journey for me. It was just like, you know, you enjoy helping people. You like plants. I do enjoy plants, but I'm so much more connected to people and wellness. And so I just began this sort of journey of serving friends, as their doula, just as a volunteer. I had no intentions of this being a career shift. And it wasn't until it was all encompassing that I had to step away from my other job. And I feel so much more fulfilled. I make significantly less money, but this is the first time in my life where I've been less consumed about money. And so I have so much more peace than I could ever expect. And I'm not saying I don't want to make more money, but I'm grateful. And so, you know, as you alluded to, this it's like spiritual journey, I really feel like God has been carrying me throughout all of this. And so this is where I'm supposed to be. And it just feels right.
I'm going to stay with you for a little bit longer, Latoya. What to you is impact? Because we want to talk about business, not only making money, which you alluded to and talked about, but the importance of businesses making social impact.
So I guess specifically to birthing mothers and families, I say people who feel like they have agency over their birthing experience. I want this to be memorable for the right reason. And if you leave out of this or leave out of a birth knowing that you've done something that, you know, for centuries other women have done, but statistics show that you might not make it out of this experience, and you do, and you feel empowered, you feel strong in your body, that's impactful. And then on top of, I guess, in addition to that, all of my work has been via word of mouth. I have yet to advertise. And some folks would say you are crazy, you're a fool, but my success as a doula and just the attention to detail, and I guess my heart and compassion that I have for families, like it speaks for itself. And so people continue to share this journey. I mean, I think eventually I need to move to a space where I am better about sort of putting myself, so I'm grateful for spaces like this. But I'm also I'm just really grateful for the impact that I've been able to have right where I am.
How about you, Tina? How do you define social impact in your business? What are some of the things that you have seen even in the industry, the tech industry, when it comes to impact?
Yeah, so you had asked earlier just about me being in a tech space in cyber, and there isn't, a lot of diversity in that field. And, but math has always been a really strong subject for me. I also, I saw, this Hollywood movie, The Net, with Sandra Bullock. I always tell people that was kind of the positive influence that Hollywood had on me, where when I saw Sandra Bullock, she was this hacker, a woman, and I was like, what field is that? So that kind of is what attracted me, to the field of cybersecurity. But I am really focused on increasing the number of individuals, African Americans in particular, boys and girls, into the field of a STEM career, and in particular cybersecurity. It has negative unemployment, meaning there are more openings now, and the gap is only continuing to increase. with regard to those needed in that field. And there are plenty of Americans that can fill those positions, and they're out there and it's untapped. The underrepresented are quite capable of getting the job done. And so I do a lot of talking, from Girl Scout events to participating in different other outreach, and, getting in with groups that are organized. I a lot of times don't see a lot of me in these groups that are trying to come up with solutions. And my biggest thing is, it's very hard to come up with compelling, impactful solutions when you don't have representation of the groups that you're trying to increase engagement from. That's like trying to increase the number of, women in a particular field, and you have all men around the table making that decision and trying to figure out like what's going to work. Same with the African American demographic in particular. The way in which you engage and you want to increase the numbers, you're going to have people from the communities that you're trying to engage. So that's the real opportunity that I see. I'm very passionate about, the technical aspects of my business and really helping to solve some of the cyber problems for our nation, but equally as passionate about making sure that our nation is tapping into some really great and bright minds, the best and the brightest, that come from demographics that are currently underrepresented in the field.
No, that's fantastic. And I think what we're learning more and more about technology is that it's a leveling playing field. Like, if you're able to pick up some sort of coding language, if you're able to have access to a computer, if you're able to do anything tech related, it can literally change your life and the life of your family. And we see that in communities abroad. I'm seeing that with a program in Ghana where they're teaching students how to code, and then those students can now work remotely and literally change their entire family's life.
That's
so
right.
I could not agree with you more.
Yeah.
Chris, when it comes to social impact, and I know that you came up with your business idea when you were pregnant, but what are some of the things that I've heard recently is just having a business owned by a Black person is social impact. I mean, do you agree with that? Or do you think that we also can do more in our communities to create businesses that are not just about making money?
So, that question was very interesting when you asked that, for me to think about what I'm doing. And you know what? Recently I had a conversation with a friend about just this. And sometimes when you're so close to something, you don't realize all the big things that you're doing. And ironically enough, we talked about how my products impact people. And it's as simple as having clean formulation and not having those chemicals that cause so many ailments and issues in everyone, especially people of color, and educating people about the importance of investing in quality ingredients. And she was like, you're healing people because you're making their feet feel better, which, has a trickle up effect. And so, those are the types of things that I don't think about on a daily basis because I'm just doing something that I'm passionate about. But when you really think about it, that along with the other like community things that we do at Naturally London are all coming together. Like, we work with charities that do, they gather shoes, Souls for Souls, where we gather shoes for people in need, and it also helps cut back waste in the landfill. So, you have to find things that you're passionate about and definitely make that what how you give back. And so that's pretty much, I never thought about my social impact until I honestly had that conversation with my girlfriend, and I'm like, yeah, we're doing great things over here.
Doing some good out here.
We are doing
Tell me, pat myself on the back.
right.
No, that's awesome. And I'm going to stay with you a little bit because I know that the indie beauty industry is so popular these days. When I started Shea Yeleen, I couldn't find any resource to help me grow my business, but now there are accelerator programs. large companies are supporting, you know, startup, early stage indie brands. You have even retailers who are actively looking for indie brands to bring on shelf. So do you think, especially now with everything happening with Black Lives, and I'm going to want Latoya and Tina to answer this question as well. Do you think this is a real movement, or is it just a moment? Do you think that there's a shift happening when it comes to supporting businesses that are run by people who historically have just not had the same access to capital, to markets, to the resources that we need to really shift wealth in this country?
So being a self-funded business, I find all the things that you're saying very interesting, because there has been challenges for me to grow my business, and I have had a lot of no's and very few yeses. But what I will say is I am an optimistic person. I believe in the glass being half full. And so I'm putting that energy out there that I pray that this will be true change now that everyone is, well, mostly everyone is aware, and no one can say that they don't know anymore, right? So the conversation's out there. We need to continue having those tough conversations that make us uncomfortable, but help us grow. And, you know, I can only hope that when my little girl is ready or wanting, hopefully she'll want to be an entrepreneur, that she doesn't have to overcome the obstacles that I had to overcome, because there's still, you know, it doesn't change overnight, right? And there are some people that are going to continue to feel, there are some businesses that are still going to still have that underlining issue until, you know, they sweep it out. But I can only hope. I really just hope.
No, that's great. Tina, what do you think? Is this a movement or a moment?
You know, whether it's a movement or a moment, it's hard to comment on, because what got us here was very intentional action. It wasn't unintentional. There's specific policies that were created, specific laws that were created, institutionalized, structured, systemic, and intentional decisions that were made. I think that's the really important part that people can't miss in some of these conversations. It's not just the soft aspect of saying, oh, no matter what color you are with the crayon, you know, we all matter, and things like that. No, very specific and intentional and structured laws and institutions were built up and around the wealth gap that we see. It's not an accident. We didn't just happen upon it. It wasn't bad luck, you know. And so that same kind of structured, institutionalized, systemic, intentional effort is going to, over a sustained period of time, with just as much creativity and nuance that was used to put it into place, is going to have to be used to undo it and move us in a different direction. And so that's my perspective on it. And, you know, there's the case with African Americans in particular. We know a lot of that history, from slavery to the lost promise of what was supposed to happen during Reconstruction, unkept promises, to specific intentional opposition against entrepreneurship in the Black community, to Jim Crow, redlining, zoning, regulations. And also for women, you know, it's been as recent as, I think it was like the 80s, where a woman could get a loan without having to have a male person, you know, family member sign for her. I mean, these are laws and very intentional things. So I always like to make that a point of emphasis, because it's going to take the same amount of intentionality to unwrap this. So I hope that the will, the economic interest, as well as the direction, is something more than just a moment in time, and that it is something that actually is a movement. But this isn't just a soft kind of, oh, I didn't see. The people that were making these decisions saw enough. And so hopefully the will is just as strong for those that are seeing or paying attention now as it was in the past. That's my perspective.
Right. No, and I couldn't agree more that we need to never forget that this has been systemic over hundreds of years. This just didn't happen overnight. It just didn't happen over the last decade or 2 decades. It's literally been the fabric that this country was woven together on. The way that this country was built was on the backs of Black people and at the expense of Native Americans. And we cannot forget that it's incredibly institutionalized from even the way our Constitution was written.
Yeah, and I think it's even more present than that, right? Like I saw a post on LinkedIn where it was just like this childhood book where it was teaching children. This book was published 81 years ago. I have relatives older than 81 years. The book, though, was teaching little children how to count and it was called like 10 little N-words, right? And that was the book. This is 81 years ago. So I just, just like the intentionality, I think it's very remiss to have people think that everything dropped off in 1865 or 1863. Like it's 81 years ago. That kind of book was published and used to teach children. Like I have a great aunt that is well beyond 81. Like this is stuff that's kind of carried on through time. So when we, have this expectation that, oh, blink one generation and all of this type of stuff is gone. No, children were brought up with this. It's just not that far removed. My parents grew up in the Jim Crow era. They pot pickers. They, like that's my parents. That's who raised me. So, and the great thing is they aren't bitter. They're not, any of that. Like they didn't grow up teaching us that kind of mindset and mentality. Thank God. Right. But the fact is that you have people that grew up in the same era on the other side of the aisle, with a different mentality that did grow up with parents in their ear teaching them, certain principles of hate and bigotry, et cetera. So yeah, it's not that long ago. Like we don't even need to go back as far as slavery. Let's just go to my parents' generation, so yeah.
Absolutely. No, yeah. 100%. Absolutely. I mean, there are people alive today who are sharecroppers who pick cotton. So it really, this is recent history. This is not, LaToya, what are your thoughts on this? Especially for you, you went to an HBCU. And so I feel like you truly, compared to a lot of Americans, have a much deeper understanding of some of this history. I mean, I was talking, and posting, like, I didn't know what Juneteenth was until I was in my 20s, and I moved to DC and I learned about it through my church. There's so much about Black history that we don't get taught growing up in public school. And that most of the Black history that I know of and have been educated on was not in school. It was after school. It was with, folks at my church. It was places where I volunteered. It was having to move out of upstate New York and coming to DC and being exposed to different people who live through the very things that Tina is talking about. So what about you? Because I know that, HU, like it is in every single book, every single.
Yeah, attending Howard University was the best decision, was the best scholastic decision that I could have ever made. I'm grateful that my parents allowed me to make it for myself. And the community and the village helped me to be able to pay to go there and so I'm really grateful for that. I was talking to some friends this week. The only Black history lesson that I remember in an AP American history class had to do with Martin Luther King and his phone being tapped by the FBI. That was legit the only thing that I learned. I was in an international baccalaureate program. That is all that I learned about Black history. And so going to Howard and being sort of like immersed in this culture and this history, it was thoughtful, it was intentional. And I learned about myself and people who looked like me and my ancestors throughout all of my classes. So I learned about just the importance of Black doctors in my biology course or in my anatomy and physiology class, and the different interventions or inventions rather that we came up with. And so I'm really grateful for that. I think when it comes to our healthcare system and being hopeful for what for a brighter future for Black women and families, I can tell you that the numbers can be discouraging, but I had to resolve that joy is also a form of resilience and resistance. And if I can remind my clients of that, and we find ways to practice joy, I feel like that it can be contagious. Also, the systems just need to be dismantled like completely. And unless we're willing to have a conversation about that and do the work that it takes to do that, my life expectancy, I think I'm going to live to about 120 years. That's what I think. And I could pass on my skills as a doula, from one generation to the next. But what does that do to the systems that are created? So it can't just be personal responsibility. I need to be making sure that I'm a part of tearing down systems that continue to cause Black women to be in these spaces. So that's what's really important to me.
No, I love that. And I think that you're so right. What needs to happen almost simultaneously is the healing of Black people. So we need to heal, and we need to be open about that healing and be very radical about that, and bring into our lives as much joy as possible. And so we're not only calling attention to the pain and suffering, but we're also doing the work of healing so that we can become as interactive and as intertwined in dismantling the system and building a new one. And so I absolutely love what you're saying.
Yeah, I was just going to say quickly, I get invited to do talks to social workers, families, women, folks who serve the women that I work with who are social workers, and oftentimes they want to have conversations, lunch and learns on what's going on, how are Black women being treated in the healthcare system. And so it can be so negative. The facts are out there, several articles, all this stuff is out there. And I said, I don't want to be a disciple of all the bad. So I need to also talk about Black joy, Black resilience, Black motherhood. We are making a way out of no way, here too. And so that is just really important. As we look at the movement for Black lives and, is this a moment or a movement? My hope is that it's lasting, but we have to do the work systemically and personally to make sure that it keeps going.
So speaking about joy, there is a famous HU grad that I'm sure you've heard of. We have a question here. Kamala Harris, what is happening? What do you ladies think? What does it mean to you that we now have the first Black and Indian American nominated to become vice president? I'm not even gonna say who will be. Let's just claim it. Who will be vice president? Latoya, what does it mean to you?
It's a great sense of pride. I wore my Howard sweatshirt for one, so I was very intentional about putting this on.
HU? I'm just gonna pretend for a moment.
I'm blasting the air conditioning today so that I can have this sweatshirt on. So we are proud. We are going to be a little obnoxious for the next couple of weeks because we are excited for her. This is an opportunity for history to be made, but also for new policies to be enacted and for her to be influential in the room. I believe that when we listen to Black women, when we vote for Black women, when we trust Black women, when we put us in positions of leadership, everyone benefits. we care about the community, we care about the village. And so I believe that she is going to do the work using her voice, you know, drawing from the ancestors and from, you know, the women in her life. She speaks very highly about her mom too, who was very influential into who she is today, even in her decision to come to Howard University, wanting to have this experience that she'd never had. And so, and I think that we'll continue to hold her accountable. I don't think that we want to go into this blindly, but I think that I'm excited for some change. I won't speak for everyone on this panel. I'm excited for that. And I'm going to do the work within myself and within my community to help be a part of that.
Yes. Chris.
I think that it's a wonderful and also a little bit sad that it's taken this long to have that type of diversity for our highest offices of our nation. I think it's wonderful for our children to be able to finally get more diversity and see what they can do. Some people really need to see that type of possibility. So that's very, very exciting. I agree with LaToya. It doesn't mean just because, you know, she's a black woman that, yes, it's instant. Let's hope that what she stands for also aligns with what we stand for. But I personally am just overjoyed because, you know, Black women are amazing. I mean, like, all women are amazing, but Black women, we are truly amazing creatures. And it just will be great if she's given the opportunity to really, really show the nation our magic. So I'm excited.
That's right, our magic. Tina.
Yeah, I just really believe representation matters. And I think it's important that we are able to see various things that Black women can do. I mean, for those of us who are Black women, we see our friends, we see our mothers, our aunts, you know, cousins, everybody. So we are well aware of the intellectual prowess, the strength, the giftedness, the many talents of Black women. And yet what gets on some of the largest and broadest stages, you know, of our country and this world is not a proper reflection of the real power and brilliance and skill and talent that Black women bring to the table. And I think that by having Kamala in this position now is just another means by which to bring who we as Black women are often hidden figures, you know, in the movement. Like, we've been working, we've been doing, this is nothing novel. We are not we didn't just spring up in this generation. We've been here, we've been working, we've been contributing, we've been inventing, we've been building businesses, we've been contributing in all these different ways. We've been teaching, we've been doctoring and lawyering and, you know, just corporate rooming. You know, it's like we've been there, we've been here. We aren't new, we didn't just pop up, right? So it's just really great to see yet one more opportunity and example to show the diversity even amongst Black women. I mean, it's just, so I think that that's the real like power and promise that I see in this, is that we're starting to get some additional representation that shows who we've been and the caliber of women amongst us all along. So I'm very excited about that.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And you're right, you know, to everyone's point in terms of like, it's long overdue. We absolutely have been in almost every aspect of our society. We just haven't been seen. And I think that you're so right about, there's something about being seen and acknowledged. It's a human need. It's not just a Black woman's need. It's something that all of humanity needs. And for us to be able to show our daughters, and I also think it's not only for Black girls, it's for all girls. And I think that that's important too. It's bringing us together in a way that says, you are not an outsider. And I think that that has been my greatest struggle with being a Black American and being a woman, is constantly this feeling of being an outsider. This space is not for you. And to your point, Tina, when you see someone in a space that typically has not been welcoming and opening that door, and I think it's incredible to imagine that in less than a decade, we get to see a Black president and a VP, a Black VP, in less than a decade of each other. That's incredible to me. But when you start seeing people paving those ways and opening those doors and taking up those spaces, it changes and shifts everything. You know, the Obama presidency has shifted everything and made this possible, not just because of Obama, but because of everyone else. You know, let's think back to, you know, Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Ida B. Wells, like the list goes on and on and on. And even the freedom fighters and the folks who have struggled, Patrice Lumumba in, you know, the Congo and all of these other places. And for me, it's so important as we look at what's happening locally in America, it's having an impact globally as well. And especially for people in the diaspora. You know, she represents the Indian American diaspora. She represents the Jamaican diaspora. So she has that West Indian connection. And I think when you're able to see how much we really are interconnected, this is a win not just for Black women, but it's a win for everyone. And I think as we move further, as we move closer and closer to seeing humanity winning versus, well, this is a win for this group and this is a win for this group. And as we start seeing less polarization and just realize that this is something that is humanity. We are all, you know, we all at the end of the day want the same things, want to be able to live at a higher standard. And that's what I think about a lot with the shea butter producers I work with. They do not want anything that no one else wants or has. And for me, it's how do we create more inclusivity? How do we change market dynamics that continue to leave people out and leave them on the sidelines? And how do we say, no, you know what? I don't want to buy anything that keeps someone poor. I don't want to create a business model that develops toxic communities and creates toxic work environments. Look at everything that's happening in terms of people being held accountable at the, you know, the Me Too move, whether it's the Me Too movement or people talking, you know, and sharing about, you know, what it's like to work for this person or this organization or in this industry. And I think that that shift is happening. And this is representative of that shift of let's stop with these dynamics and these systems that keep people out. And so I want to get a little, you know, I have only a couple more questions left, but I really want to get into what it is that you do. You know, we have the titles and, you know, the types of things, but what do you really do? Like LaToya, if someone wanted to work with you, a pregnant woman wanted to work with you, walk us through what that experience is like. Of course, you know, you don't have to share any personal stuff. But you know, one, I'm asking this question so people really understand what you do, also to be able to get you, you know, access to potentially a new client or someone being interested to go check out your website or your platforms and really support you. Because at the end of the day, we want people to support your businesses and businesses like you.
Yeah, so again, if someone is interested in just like knowing about what a doula does, I will hop on the phone with them or on Zoom and just kind of explain, this is the role of a doula. People often think that I am a midwife. They think that I am going to the baby. And especially in the time of COVID, I would say business has shifted a little bit. Oftentimes, so it's been a little bit more difficult to get into the hospitals recently because of limitations. And so because of that, people want to give birth at home and they're like, ooh, you can be my midwife. And I'm like, ooh, no. I can connect.
Like there's levels to this.
There's levels to this. I told you. I failed organic. And so I can't deliver your baby yet. But I sort of like talk about what the role of a doula can be in your birthing experience. And so provide informational support. People often think that they're going to go to these doctor's appointments. They're going to be able to sit there for hours and ask all the questions that they want to ask, and someone is going to cater to them. And you know, it's just not. It's like a rotation in and out. And so people just often don't know what they're getting into, whether they take a childbirth education class or not. And so I provide informational support. This is what the birthing process looks like. This is what's going on with your body. This is why your provider suggested this intervention, or this is why you can combat that suggestion. Here are some other sort of like alternatives to that. So that's the sort of like informational support. There's a emotional support as well. And this is to the birthing person and the partner. It's just like, this is intense. This is overwhelming in a good way, and sometimes in a really sort of like hard way. And so I sort of provide like a really calming presence in that moment. Hey guys, you're already doing it. Folks, I can't do this, I can't do it. I'm like, we are already here. You are already doing it. So this is how I'm going to be able to help you get there.
But you're a coach. You're coaching.
I'm a coach. And that's so anti what I would have ever wanted. I tried to play sports. I don't like to be yelled at. I also don't yell at folks, but I just never, like, I'm just doing all of the things I never would have done. So it's just so funny to me. But just sort of like coaching clients through this process. I make it very clear that I don't overtake the role of the partner either. This is like to complement. And then sort of what's been most, I feel like, helpful is often the sort of like physical support and comfort that is provided. And so I get to use my hands and bring healing touch. So it's you know, using counter pressure to sort of like help ease some of the tension and the waves of intensity that are going through your body that no one wants to call contractions, because that is scary in the moment. So we're like hoping you get through those waves of
It's a wave.
Gotta ride the wave. And
this is like, I had a baby. It did not feel like a wave.
Had 2 babies.
Oh, she had 2 babies. I'm sorry.
So, you know, it's physical comfort, suggesting different positions for laboring in. Let's make sure you're eating. Often labor with my family is at home for a while before they go to the hospital. And that's, you are in your own environment. And this, how can I make this comfortable for you? And then finally we get to when it's time to bring a baby here. Suggestions for pushing. We don't always have to be on our back. I'm advocating for you and with you for suggestions, even just for communicating with providers. Sometimes what I have observed is someone will make a decision for a mom directly to me, and I'm like, you should talk to the mother. I'm not birthing. You shouldn't just make a suggestion to the partner. You need to talk to mom. Like, she should get an epidural. You need to convince her to get an epidural. And I'm like, that's a decision that she needs to make. So it's just, so there's a lot of even, coaching through those situations too. And then baby is here, helping you to learn how to breastfeed, helping doing infant care. I also do postpartum support too. Folks often want me to stay the night with them so that they can go to sleep. And so I kind of like do support with the baby. So that's essentially what the work like looks like.
Wow, that's a lot. You've made me rethink the whole mother and childbirth thing.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
You made me rethink the way.
It's hard, but you're powerful and strong, and you know, and that's what the role of a doula and, you know, and just a laboring companion, honestly, just to support you and affirm you in that process.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Chris, since you've been a mom of two, tell
Yes.
us, I mean, I'm not going to ask you any birthing questions.
Please don't, please.
Tell us, you know, you care about the hands and feet, but like, how can people really support you right now? I know you did an amazing spread on ABC Good Morning America, right?
Yeah.
Which was fantastic. But like, how can people really, really support you and your business?
The best way to support me is just to take better care of yourself, you know, put self-care as a top priority, educate and learn more about how the power of taking care of your feet and taking care of your hands, things that you use every single day, and to, you know, nth power, right? We work ourselves sometimes to the bone, typing, texting, you know, more people are walking outside, running outside because of the whole pandemic we're in, you know. Just taking time to take care of yourself. And when you want to take care of yourself, just think of Naturally London and check us out. And if you want to educate yourself, read our blog, follow us on Instagram, where, you know, I try to mix in fun ways to teach people how to take care of themselves, because sometimes it can be a little mundane hearing it over and over. I like to use humor in teaching people how to take better. I did a blog not too long ago called Overwashed Hands and Underwashed Feet, because most people don't wash their feet when they're in the shower. They just kind of expect because the soap runs down, it's clean kind of thing.
And now.
And what'd you say?
I said, no, we don't want that.
Right. So those are the types of, like, you know, unthought of, I guess, topics that we touch on Naturally London, and really just making self-care fun, right? And it's more than just getting a facial. Self-care has many, think of it like a pie. And the blog is called From Feet to Face. Like, there's so many avenues and ways you have to take care of yourself. Like, we talk about doing a technology. Oh, you just said you did it, Rahama, where you took a fast away from technology.
Yeah.
So we talk about stuff like that too. Like, there's many ways you do self-care. Even though we make products for hands and feet, it's truly a self-care culture at Naturally London. So yeah, check us out. And, you know, I am threaded throughout my business. I'm so lucky to have a great team, but my team is new. Before then, I was pretty much a solopreneur, like many people, putting on different hats. And one day you're talking to Chris, the other day you're talking to Christy, and then the other day you're talking to CJ, but they're all me. Yeah, so I'm very blessed to now have a great team. And like you said, GMA was a great experience, but we're still a very small business and appreciate any and all support that we get with our community.
Amazing. And ladies, don't forget to drop in the chat links to your website, links to your, you know, your social, etc. Tina, the tech queen.
Yeah, hi, thanks so much, Rahama. Yeah, so in terms of what we do for customers or clients, a lot of times the way we come into a situation is that a customer is saying, hey, I know that we need to do more with cyber and I'm not sure where to start. And so we'll come in and we'll do an assessment. So we're really looking at where's your most sensitive information, where's your most sensitive systems. If this information or these systems were to be compromised, the impact on your business is that, you know, you might have to go out of business, right? Because of that impact. Like, where is that data? Where are those systems? Because unfortunately, the statistic is that, you know, a very large percent, 60+% of businesses that undergo like a cyber breach or a cyber attack don't recover. And so, you know, even if that's just because of like reputation, lost, you know, confidence from customers that might have entrusted you with certain data. So we go into businesses and we really help them understand, here are some of the weaknesses within your system that you really need to patch up, and we can do that work for them. Sometimes we can guide the business owner depending upon, you know, where they are from a finance perspective. We can either provide that guidance, because sometimes they'll have like the IT person that isn't really a security person, but you can easily kind of walk them through and say, hey, here's the 10 things that you need to do to really tighten up the security and ensure that your systems and your data are protected. And so we do that on, you know, small scales and larger scales, like I indicated, from the small and medium-sized business to the large agency or organization. So it's both finding out what the issues are, communicating that in layman's terms so that it's clear. And businesses sometimes need an understanding of, well, how much is that really going to cost for you found the things, you know, you told us our baby is ugly. Now what do we need to do, right? And so, you know, it's really kind of walking them through step by step, helping them put together a plan, and helping them budget for what they need to do. We also provide a lot of training. And so that training is, you know, at various levels. In fact, we had a free event, a cybersecurity exercise event called CCX1 in Baltimore that was really focused on small and medium-sized businesses. And we walked them through a scenario. So an exercise is like a real scenario where we said, hey, there's this doctor's office. This is what was seen. You know, it just looked like they weren't receiving their money from their organization, the insurance companies. And long story short, in the scenario, what played out is just that a malicious user had changed the banking information to where the payments were being sent. So the insurance company was like, we're paying, but the doctor's office saying we're not receiving it. So, you know, like a part of that is both like a business process as well as technology that might need to get put into place to make sure something like that doesn't happen again, right? And so that's the bulk or the crux of what we do for our businesses. So now we're in the position where we're starting to roll out more solutions that further facilitate the types of services that we've been offering to our clients. So we are on a fundraising round. Of course, new customers are always helpful, but we are on $1.5 million fundraising round for an intelligent, secure, automated security testing and configuration platform to build that out and make it available to our customers. So if anybody gets this and is listening, you know, certainly, yeah, looking for a great business and a founder to fund, then I am here for you. So thank you so much, Rahama, for inviting me and allowing me to participate.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I had a quick follow-up question. Do you recommend people working with your company before they even set up their websites?
I do, and it's just because there's so many little decisions that are made, right? And it's not prohibitive if they, you know, ask us to come in like after, but even with like certain plugins that get, you know, selected, it's like, maybe you should check into who's developing the plugin,
right.
How often are they pushing out updates for that plugin, you know, in case issues are found. So yeah, I think that just little questions like that are helpful for, you know, a company to think through when it comes to security.
Awesome. And I'm happy to chat with you offline regarding fundraising and connect you or put you in, you know, if I can be helpful.
Yes. You will hear from me, Rahama.
Ladies, I knew bringing the three of you together was going to be an amazing conversation. You not only represent a diversity in terms of the industries that you're in, your passion comes through. I love each and every one of you. I want you to be amazingly successful, because when one of us is successful, we all win and we win together. So I want to congratulate you for the businesses that you have created. Entrepreneurship is hard, hard, hard. And so this journey is not for the faint of heart. It is a roller coaster. I know we were talking about a wave earlier. Entrepreneurship is like this. And so I know that journey that you are on. Lisa, we appreciate you giving us this platform and this audience to connect with. I really want to encourage everyone that is listening on Facebook Live and here with us in Zoom, please support these young ladies, help us get our businesses where we need to get to. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Yes, thank you so much, Tina, Latoya, Chris, and Rahama for a wonderful conversation. So great to know about your work, and we'll stay connected. So join our Facebook page, silverspringtowncenter.com is our website. We have multiple pages on Facebook, but this is streaming live now on on our group page, which is our largest one. And join us tomorrow night for Contagious Comedy, because who doesn't need more comedy
Right.
in their life? Thank you again, ladies. It was awesome.
Thank
Good night, everyone.
you. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.